What if a single wry sentence, whispered over an open radio channel at more than 300 kilometers per hour, could rip the scarlet curtain from Formula One's most mythic team? Lewis Hamilton's dry request for a tea break in Miami sounded like gallows humour to television audiences, yet beneath the wit lay a deeper alarm bell. A seven-time champion signalling that the squad he joined for glory might already be drifting toward chaos. Ferrari's loyal tifosi had spent the off-season splashing hashtags and painting murals to celebrate Hamilton's arrival, expecting a renaissance, the sport's most decorated driver united with its most storied badge. But motorsport's romance has a cruel memory, and reputations mean nothing when the stopwatch starts. Hamilton's new life in red began to unravel under the blistering Florida sun when Ferrari called him in for fresh, medium compound tyres, while Charles Leclerc stayed out on harder rubber. Mediums wilt quickly in 44 degrees Celsius track heat, and Miami offers few overtaking zones. So within 5 laps, Hamilton's extra grip evaporated, and he found himself welded to the diffuser of his teammate, fast enough to taste the podium, powerless to bite. Each lap spent in Leclerc's turbulent wake cost him roughly 0.3 of a second to the McLaren ahead, and across 12 laps that bleeding equaled nearly 4 seconds, an eternity on a circuit where DRS trains lock finishing order, turning what should have been an aggressive push into an invisible hemorrhage that may prove decisive when the championship tally closes in Abu Dhabi. Strategic paralysis is measured not in minutes, but in lost championship points. And as Hamilton sat behind Leclerc, each kilometre extracted life from his mediums, knowing every heat cycle strips grip, and every weight-disturbed brake zone spikes tyre temperature. He asked, politely at first, for a swift swap, only to hear committee talk crackle back. And when permission finally arrived, the window to chase third place had evaporated. Made worse, when the pit wall then ordered him to reverse the move and hand the place back. A reversal that corroded morale, froze future bold calls, and transformed a racing error into a structural fault, visible to every engineer in the garage. Juan Pablo Montoya, retired yet never muted, sliced through the diplomatic fog 48 hours later by declaring on Colombian radio that Lewis was right. Ferrari is too worried about looking fair, and that fear is costing them speed, comparing Maranello's dithering to McLaren's late 2024 wobble, and reminding listeners that institutional habits, not isolated errors, decide destiny, while revisiting Ferrari's 2022 fiasco at Silverstone, where tyre confusion cost Leclerc a victory. Change the names, change the year. The pattern is the same. A soundbite that rocketed around the globe and redirected the spotlight onto Ferrari's leadership. Frédéric Vasseur faced cameras with a reassuring smile, and the well-worn line that radio snippets never tell the full story. Yet leaked telemetry showed the SF25 is hypersensitive to crosswinds and narrows in setup range, quick in calm conditions, skittish in gusts, with performance swings of 0.7 between sessions that are unsustainable in a title fight. Miami cost trust, and Hamilton ended the debrief with a cold pat on his boss's shoulder and the words, "Calm down, don't be so sensitive," while data analysts noted the car qualifies on average 0.2 quicker than its race pace projection suggests. A red flag of aerodynamic imbalance that rivals seem to be closing while Ferrari treads water, pinning slim hope on a flexi-wing directive set for Spain. Technically, Ferrari's 2025 Challenger reads like a dissertation in compromise. Designers chased peak downforce, yet discovered the car loses balance if ride height changes by more than 1 millimetre. Rear suspension overheats tyres on full tanks, the front struggles to bite on worn rubber, and weight distribution remains finicky. Aerodynamicists concede that hunting downforce under a cost cap forces cooling and tyre wear sacrifices, prompting one engineer to joke, "We keep rearranging the furniture, but the walls stay crooked." Yet even perfect hardware would be worthless if the human circuitry of the team continued to misfire. Status, not speed, often dictates intra-team dynamics. And Leclerc, fluent in Italian and raised on Ferrari folklore, commands emotional gravity, while Hamilton, despite 7 world crowns, remains the newcomer. Miami exposed that hierarchy when hesitation over a simple driver swap hinted at an unofficial pecking order, with insiders whispering that the Scuderia lacks a Ross Brawn-style enforcer to cut through polite debate. And Hamilton's most effective rebuttal to that crescendo of voices was paradoxically silence. For Hamilton, silence functions as a strategic blade. After Miami, he skipped the usual social media reflections, appeared briefly at a sponsor dinner, then vanished into Maranello's simulator bay, where he spent 4 straight hours testing pit stop permutations, while speaking only to race engineer Brian Bozzi. Trainer Angela Cullen calls this problem-solving mode, explaining he is not sulking, but calculating how to win with what he has, and the circuit that judges every car would soon judge Ferrari's fragile hopes. Barcelona's Circuit de Catalunya is Formula One's truth serum, A blend of high, medium, and low-speed corners stitched into an engineering polygraph, where a tightened wing flex test will slash allowable deflection from 15mm to 10, a standard Ferrari claims to meet, while suspecting rivals may need heavier inserts. Yet the track's front-limited layout magnifies the SF25's erratic turn-in, and although Hamilton has requested a revised front suspension shim for extra bite, manufacturing lead times push delivery towards Spielberg, turning Spain not into a reset, but into a verdict no slogan can soften. Where, then, does this leave the man pursuing Formula One's holy grail, an 8th World Championship that would elevate him beyond every champion in the sport's 75-year chronicle? The answer glows inside that sly tea-break quip, a flash of sarcasm that served as a flare in the night sky, illuminating brittle procedures, political fault lines, and a machine that behaves like two different cars depending on whether the asphalt bakes at 40+ degrees Celsius or chills under cloud. Miami showed the cracks. Barcelona will decide whether those cracks are hairline or canyon. If Spain delivers the turnaround Ferrari promises, firmer front-end bite, cooler rear tyres, and a pit wall finally willing to trade sentiment for speed, Hamilton's legend could fuse with Ferrari's myth to write a chapter worthy of the history books. But if the Circuit de Catalunya unspools the same pattern of hesitation and imbalance, the consequences will echo far beyond one lonely Sunday afternoon. Inside Maranello, sponsors will question investment. Engineers will polish resumes, and the tifosi, romantic but unforgiving, will turn their choreographed chants into restless murmurs. Hamilton himself is famously patient only until he is not. He walked away from McLaren when opportunity beckoned at Mercedes. And he knows better than anyone that loyalty without performance is sentiment, not strategy. Even a figure as iconic as Michael Schumacher could not bend time forever. Greatness in this sport is measured in tenths, not intentions. Quips, then, are signals, not solutions. Championships are forged by decisive calls made under the white-hot glare of competition, by the courage to pit on the lap nobody else dares, and by a culture that treats every detail, lug nut placement, wind shear adjustment, pre-race briefing, as sacred. If Ferrari can rediscover that ruthless clarity, Hamilton's scarlet era may yet glow incandescent. If not, the history books will record the tea-break radio line as the moment the dream began to fracture. And the driver, chasing immortality, will do what champions have always done, follow the quickest path to the podium, even if that road ultimately leads away from the prancing horse. If you're as hooked as we are on the drama unfolding between Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, this is just the beginning. Will the legend rise with the prancing horse, or will the cracks become impossible to ignore? Hit that like button if you're watching this saga closely. Subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest stories in Formula One, and ring the bell so you never miss a twist. Because the next race might just change everything.